Hey, welcome everybody to the first Coffee with Cagnetta show. And I have a very special guest. I have Steve Nudelberg, my dear friend and amazing entrepreneur. Cheers, Steve.
Cheers to you, my friend. This is awesome.
Welcome. Have a little sip of.
As soon as I got here, I couldn't wait to get the coffee.
I know, espresso, and we are coffee guys. We both love coffee.
I think I don't trust people that don't drink coffee. So,
and wine, right?
Coffee, wine, people got to learn how to live, right?
Exactly. So I'll start off there with a quick icebreaker kind of thing. So speaking about living, I saw your post this morning that you like to do things to take care of yourself, self-care.
Yeah.
So what's like one thing that you could give entrepreneurs out there, that advice of, hey, you got to take care of yourself?
So, as you said, I think we have a lot of choices in life. And one of those things is, if you want to be the best version of yourself, you have to make choices about what you eat, who you hang out with, how much you sleep. So when you pay attention to all those details, you raise your performance level. And I was, my whole career, I've been fascinated with how to be the best performance, how to be the best version of myself. And so waking up early does that, drinking a lot of water, getting the right amount of sleep, and, to operate at that level, to try and be a high achiever. Those are the things that make a difference in the long run.
Right.
And at my age, it's been a long run.
It has been a long run. So let's talk about that a little bit, because we've known each other for decades, right?
Oh, my God. Oh.
And, I knew you when you had your stores of ABC Cellular. Yeah. And so talk a little bit about like your journey, because listen, all of us, I just did a podcast on our other podcast talking about failure, failing forward, failing for your future, and we've been through several businesses. And so give us your quick little history, timeline.
As you said, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So at the dinner table, that's all I heard. And I was fascinated with the people side of it. I love the people side. To me, the thought of meeting new people, engaging with people, doing things with people was exciting, and every day could be new. So when I thought of my career path, there was no doubt I was going to be in that space. And contrary to many other people that were peers at the time, I didn't really want to sell anything but myself. I wanted people to know who I was, and then I thought the rest would follow. And I was an outlier. I mean, people would look at me and they go, well, what about the clothes? And, it always comes, and so my career path has always been about creating awareness. And now, the tools are there to do it at scale. I mean, I had to do it face-to-face, hand-to-hand. Now, I mean, if you get good at the social media stuff, you could become famous in a short period of time, like you've done.
Right.
But, what never fails is how you treat people. Never. And if for some reason people who are in business or in business development, if somebody doesn't buy from them, they burn that bridge, which is fascinating to me, because I've iterated so many different things, but those people were still part of my tribe, and they were either somebody who could help me meet somebody else, or, somebody who I could go to for, advice or mentoring. So it's, for me, it's been a people journey. And with a last name like Nudelberg, it was like you met me, you should know me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've done a lot of different things to kind of build on that career. And for a while with sports, you leveraged sports. You were intimately working with Don Shula, like someone who's so great. Yes. And so like your business is morphed into like how you make other people great like that, right?
Well, so the phone business was incredible for me because it exposed me to certain elements of people like athletes, professionals who are early adopters of that technology. So I was always a learner, lifelong learning. I always wanted to, like, what could you teach me that would make me better? And so everybody that I was with, those athletes that I was working with, coaches, they all had a process. They all had some rhythm or system that they were working with. And I was enamored by that because success was based on, their repetitiveness. And Coach Shula was probably the greatest. So whether it was, Shula or Ditka, those guys early on, or Saban when Saban was here, you're around that kind of discipline, that kind of, commitment to excellence. It rubs off. So, I've never been afraid of failure. I understood that failure would be something that I could learn from. I'm really blessed that I taught my kids that. Both of my kids my boys became college football coaches. And, like that came out of nowhere. There's no lineage in our family. They built their roadmap based on lack of fear for trying new things and following your passion. And so, I learned all of that, continue to learn today. I find it fascinating because at the level I'm at now, I wrote a book, I get to speak on stages, and people call me an expert, and I go, let me check you, I'm not an expert. And they go, well, what do you mean? You've done all this stuff. And I go, I'm a student. That's made me really good at what I do. I think when you're an expert, you stop learning. So, it's really, there's so much, the speed of change now in your business, in my business, whatever, is daily. It used to take years for things to change. And so if you're not aware to it, you can quickly become irrelevant.
Yeah, I think you talked about it. It's all about people. And I think that's number one. I've based my career on supporting people, making people successful. And in my business, I think what you've done, and listen, folks out there, if you want to have a great speaker for your conference, we've not only had Steve once, we've had Steve multiple times.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it's fun. You're up there, you're charging people up, and you're messaging in your book. Talk about your book a little bit, because I like the process of your book. I like the fact that it speaks to people like pretty plainly.
Yeah, I wrote a book that I wanted to read. I don't like getting caught up in buzzwords and theories and all that kind of stuff. Give me something that's bite-sized, that's actionable, that I can repeat, and that's when good things happen. So, I reached a point in my career where a couple of people said to me, like, you've been successful in a couple of different things. Did you ever think about writing a book? And I was like, nah, the whole idea of writing a book, I was voted least likely to write a book, but somebody said, like, your grandson will never know, like, what you did. And that one got under the belt. And I was like, you know what? I want to leave some of those stories. I want to tell stories about my process and how I got there. And so there's 27 rules for leaders and influencers. The name of the book is Confessions of a Serial Salesman, because I was capable of being successful in a couple of different categories, because it was always the people, and it was always about me selling me and what it took to get into that state of mind to sell me. Like one of the things I talk about in the book is about being in the zone. There's a lot of people wake up in the morning, I don't really feel it. I'm just going to mail it in today, or I'm just going to get through today. And that concept, excuse me, drove me crazy to the point where I said, how do I get to the top, performance level every day? And Michael Jordan coined it, in the zone. And there's a test that you give yourself. Where am I? If I'm a 5, what do I need to do to get to a 10? Because I was always fearful that if I wasn't a 10, I would miss out on meeting the right person and them not really getting me. So the process to being great had nothing to do with the product or service or price. It always had to do with preparation. What you see great athletes and great performers and great business people is they're prepared for it. They don't, it's not by accident.
I think that's a great point. I think the athlete stories and showing their preparedness and practice and So you've taken that, which I'm a big admirer of, and not only have you taught it to business people and entrepreneurs, but you've taken it to the nonprofit world as well. So what are you seeing out there, when you're approaching these leaders? What do they need the most? What are you finding out there that they really, that maybe the athletes have, but they don't have, right?
So, actually learned this from Pat Riley.
There you
Pat
go.
Riley said, the only thing in life you can count on is change. So you better learn to embrace it. And I was fortunate that in the phone business, I had a relationship with the Heat, so I had access to him. I never worked with him, but that one saying stuck with me over the years. And so being open to change and being open to being the best version of yourself, I think people get stuck. They get stuck quickly, So for me, recognizing that the game is continually changing, recognizing that I can grow and change and, be the best version of myself, the number one decision in any buying process is a personal decision. If you and I didn't like each other 30 years ago, the history of everything that we've done would be
Right.
over. It started with, well, we like each other. You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. It had nothing to do with, hey, can you sell me something? It had everything.
I don't think I bought a phone from you.
No, right? So, and I never cared.
Right.
Because that's not what I was in it for.
Right.
And so, this is a fascinating stat. And I'm into the meat and potatoes of all of this. It surprises people to hear that A-Rod is number 5 all-time in strikeouts.
Wow.
I go, oh my God, he's a Hall of Fame. What do you mean he's 5 all? That's like the worst category. Yeah, but he's number 5 all-time in home runs too. So you got to get up to the plate a lot.
Right.
And that's what I did. I don't expect everybody to like me. I just want to focus on the ones that do. Because then there's goodness there. There's richness in life. And from that comes great business opportunities, great friendships. I mean, God, socially we are, as close as,
Right.
as we look forward to every time we're with you. We've supported your efforts. You've supported mine.
Correct.
And when you think of your life, it's not the biggest sales you made. It's the people you got to do it with.
Yeah.
I had a CEO say this to me once, which really stuck with me. He goes, I don't want to be in the limo ride by myself at the end. And I was like, wow, man, that is really telling, because there are a lot of lonely entrepreneurs.
There are. I always say that entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur is a lonely place.
No, you can't talk to your wife, can't talk to your kids, can't talk to your employees. That's part of the role that I play now, is that, I'm in the car with you. We're driving around, and whatever you want to say, it's said in a safe place. It's said without judgment. And I don't give advice, because advice could be right or wrong. I give perspective. I was there, and here's what I would have done, and here's why. Now go make your educated decision. And so the people I get to work with, I'm so enamored with. They give me as much as I give them, and it's a really cool part of my career. Because I built big companies, I've built small companies, and now, I have a very, very select client base that
Yeah, amazing people.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to drop names, but
Yeah,
Lisa.
A few of them are going to be your guests.
Yeah, Lisa Ludo Perlo, the past chair of Celebrity.
Yeah, she was the CEO of Celebrity. We were acquaintances, but we saw each other at a charity event, which anybody in your career, if you're not involved in philanthropy, you're missing 50% of the opportunity.
You are. You're missing 70% of the society that's around you.
People ask why I was involved in junior achievement. Why? Because I got involved and I met Wayne Huizenga. And Wayne Huizenga became one of our biggest clients. We did all of his companies and all of his teams with their phones. It didn't happen because I knocked on his door and said, hi, I want to sell you phones. He saw me working at JA and tapped me on the shoulder.
Right.
So I met Lisa there, who was very philanthropic. Her and her husband Andre are just magnificent people, and she was telling me about some changes that might be happening in her career. And I teased her. I said, maybe I should be your agent, having done some of that in my career. And she called me the next day. She goes, I'd like to explore that. And I was like, I was just kidding.
Right.
And so she is embarking on so many different opportunities, and all I am is, someone in the car with her. And, so for me to be associated with her and some of the other people I work with, my success only comes after their success.
Right.
And it's sort of a mantra for, how I built all my businesses. I told people that the more successful they were, that opened up the door to my success. And I mean, I have people that worked for me early on that now are presidents and CEOs. I just got the pavers done in my house. And the guy who did it worked for me 25 years ago.
Wow.
And he has a $25 million company now.
Wow.
And he goes, dude, you were a pain in the ass, but you made me, And so I don't know that there's any zeros that get better than that kind of endorsement
Well, I know one thing that gets better, and we were just talking about it beforehand, and you called it FOE.
Yeah. So I've had a mantra in all of my businesses. I think leadership, there's a lack of empathy in leadership. The leaders just don't understand what their people go through. So I created this mantra years ago. We now use a hashtag, but it's family over everything, and when I did hire people, now it's my son Mark that runs the company. But when I did hire people, I wanted to know what their wife thought. I wanted to know if they had kids and what responsibilities they had. And I made it very clear that if I wanted to spend time with my family or needed to go to the doctor or do any of those things, you should be able to do the same thing. And that's the culture we built. And we have that today. It's, we make those decisions first. What is good for the family? And, I've heard this argument about, where you work is really your family. And I think that's horseshit. I think, your family is your family.
Right.
And it's great to have a great working environment, but you need to be with your family. And, I take a lot away from The Godfather. I wrote about it in my book. But a man who does not spend time with his family cannot be a man. So,
right.
It rings so clear to me. And I love the look on people's faces when they go, my wife has to work and I got something to do with my kid. And when I go, you be with your son, you be with your daughter, because you ain't getting that time back. And you've lived it too, that. Man. You know and you've done that through your organization. You meet people in your organization and they get what's important. And in turn, they give you everything they got.
Yeah. And, I think one of the harsh realities of being an entrepreneur, being a long-time entrepreneur, is that we're not going to get to do this forever. I mean, that's the problem.
I don't want to do it forever.
Right. And we don't want to, right? And so there is an arc. And I think you've been talking about that. And you help guide people in that career, in those career choices. I know you worked with Lisa as she transitioned out and got into some really exciting stuff we'll talk to her about. But you've done that too. And you've done that with your sons. And you've done that, building their business and letting people make mistakes and letting people take charge.
Probably the biggest challenge in my career was when my son took over the business. We talked about what that would look like and me letting go. Just by nature, sure. I always counted on myself and I made mistakes. I learned from them. So you always want better for your kids, but the only way to learn some stuff is to really make those mistakes. So I think what's happened now, like I'll be 65, this year. And like at 65, you're supposed to retire. I'm not really a golfer.
Right.
I'm not going to spend my time doing nothing.
Right.
So being able to pick and choose what I do and who I do it with and why is really just an amazing luxury. Like you called, you're doing this thing. and I didn't care when it was. I was like, I'm doing it,
Right.
So, those are the kind of things. I want to go meet somebody in New York. I get on a plane and I go meet them in New York.
Right.
I didn't do that before. Those were things that I was married to, what people call the grind. And if there's an education I can pass down to my kids, is that the grind was made up. Like, it's not about busy, it's about productive, and the tools that are available to us make it easier to do that. So it's really a fun time to be in business, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing time to be in business. We were talking about that earlier. If we were, and I talk about this sometimes, is like, if we could give advice to, and I know you give advice to your sons, if you could give advice to the entrepreneurs out there, the budding entrepreneurs, what are some of the things that you immediately think about that you said, if I had another shot at it, I would have done this earlier. I would have done that earlier.
I have one overriding theme. I used to care a lot about what people thought of me, and I care nothing. I mean, care may not be the right word, but I was always looking for validation. The minute I stopped looking for validation, my career and my life exploded. I know who I am. I know what I do. I'm literally on a mission to be the best version of myself, and that has attracted the most wonderful people now. That's all there is.
Including your wife.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, So, in order to have those things happen, I never thought my boys would be in business with me.
Right.
My boys made a career path, chose to go into college football coaching. They were very good at it. They were very well compensated, but they wanted more. They wanted more of what we're doing. And, Mark's passion to be a head coach made that. He goes, Dad, I want to be the head coach of our business. And I told him he couldn't do that right away. I said, you got to go, find it somewhere else.
Right.
And then come on board. So I think, for me, definitely this validation thing. I think sales was one of those things where the weakest people got into it because they kept getting validated. It was like, oh yeah, thank you. You like me. Thank you. You're buying from me. So I think that overrides everything. But, when I look at the rules, that the things that matter is, like, I wake up early every day, and I would tell people, you don't have to get up early, but if you do, like 99% of the most successful people I know
get up early,
and they use those early morning hours for themselves. It's replenishing, renewal, reading, writing, all of that stuff. You're in good company, so success leaves clues. And then, I have a mantra. Not everybody agrees with me, but if you work for me, you need to meet 1,200 people every year. And like a lot of people I say that to, like, you got to give them the smelling salts.
Yeah,
right
that's 100 people a month.
Well, I'm glad so you got it. So,
right.
But if you break it down even further,
it's 3 people a day.
5 a day.
Yeah, well, it's 5 during the business days.
Right. So it's 5 days a week. So that's 25 a week, 100 a month, 300 a quarter, 1,200 a day. If you do that, even for just 1 year, your life will change. If you stack that activity year over year, you'll be unrecognizable.
That's amazing advice. Amazing advice. So what's next for you? Like, another book, more speaking, if you're choosing to do what you want to do, is there room for another client out there?
Yeah. So what's next for me? I was going to write a second book, but when Mark came on board, he's 38 now. I made sure he wrote a book first.
Yes, he did.
And if I wrote a book, we would be conflicting with each other. So I made him sit down and write a book. It's Family, Friends, Family, Football, and Failure.
Yeah, it's nice.
And it's his journey with dealing with failure.
Right.
I mean, he was on the fast track to be one of the youngest head coaches in college football, and he got fired from Cincinnati for no reason other than that's just the way the sport is.
No, it's a tough sport.
And that was like a rude awakening to him. But that failure knocked him down and he got back up. So I did not write a second book. There is one tinkering in there, and I just want to make sure that if I write a book, it's valuable. This book is 5 years old, Confessions. And I just spoke in Naples. There was 200 architects, CEOs of architectural firms, and the response from the book is as good today as it was then. So it's timeless. It's easy to read. It has places for notes. It's very actionable. So if you put any of the rules together, so I want the book to be somewhat like that. I love the work I do. I don't want to overdo it. So there's always room for another client. I love being involved and being able to share. And that's a mentorship. That's, paid engagements. I'm involved in a few businesses, where I don't have a day-to-day role, but I am sort of a consultant, advisor, board member. So I love the freedom of choice. Yeah. There was a Southwest Airlines commercial years ago, free to roam around. And I'm free to roam around. The boys do, day to day. They do a great job. They count on me for counsel. But I'm just around great people doing great things, and opportunity is everywhere. I don't see me stopping. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do.
No, that's why you're bored. Here. You're never going to stop. I mean,
I'd be bored.
I know.
And there's so much more to do.
We'll be back 15 years from now sitting here drinking coffee together.
Yeah, listen, I'm enamored with AI.
Right.
It is, I see people using it. We use it. Most people are using it verbatim. They're like taking whatever they put in it and just posting it or writing it, which is
not the right
ridiculous,
thing
man. It's like so obvious. So if you understand what its capabilities are and how you can train it by the inputs,
right?
The outputs are incredible. And so for me, there's all these pieces of clay where I'll feed it something and it'll spit something back at me, and all of a sudden I'm writing for 2 hours. So for me, it's the match, the spark that lights it. But I'm fascinated about where it will go. The questions. We have a couple of clients that are in, heads of CEOs of law firms. And the question is, would you be okay if you paid a lawyer and they got the answer from AI?
No.
No.
That's already not worked out. Right. We've seen that not work out already.
So I think it's dangerous. I think people posing. So I'm curious. And I think if people ask me what my number one skill set throughout my career, it would be curiosity. I'm just very interested. I want to know. I want to learn. I want to hear. And I want to come have coffee, man.
Well, we'll do more of this. So tell them about your book, where they can go and get your book.
So I'm very proficient in social media. I'm available everywhere. At Nudelberg, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, especially Facebook. Anybody who tells you that people aren't on Facebook doesn't really know what they're talking about, because everybody's on Facebook.
They're on Facebook.
Most people are just looking at Facebook.
Right. Certainly our generation's on Facebook.
I think, it's let me put it this way. My suggestion to everybody, if there's a place that you can tell your story and you're not telling your story, shame on you.
Right.
So it's out there. It takes the time and the effort to do it, but it always pays dividends.
Right.
And I ask a question of everybody I meet: what's the best way to communicate with you? Where do you you like text, you like video, there's a lot of CEOs that say to me, Facebook. And I'm like, really?
Really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah. It's, why? Because no one else knows that they're,
right.
So when they tell me that, it's almost a unique line of
like nobody's communicating that way.
Right.
That's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So but those are the kind of questions I ask people when they go, wow, no one's ever asked me that. I prefer you do it on Facebook. And then I realize that I'm the only one. It's like the bat phone for me.
Wow.
Using an old reference.
And you do, speaking of LinkedIn, I don't want to say you're a specialist, but you are. I mean, you guys are amazing at it, and you have a show?
So we do a show every morning. We started it directly after the pandemic, when everybody I ever knew in my career came back to me and said, like, what do we do?
Right.
And I said this to my son, and I said this to everybody. That was a time that everybody needed to figure it out. Like,
Right.
we were all on the starting line together. No advantage for anybody. We had already spent time figuring it out beforehand. So we knew, like, the work that we share with people about LinkedIn, we did it long before. We knew this was
Right.
coming. I didn't know it would be a pandemic. But anyway, I used to do something in my businesses called the Daily Huddle. It was a way to take everybody's temperature. You know, as the company grew, people would call in and whatever. So we decided we were one of the early people to get LinkedIn Live. And I said to my son, let's go on live. Let's have a place where people can start their day. We'll talk about all kinds of sales and business and entertainment stuff. Well, we just celebrated our 1,000th show. We're
Wow.
at 1,050. It's live every morning on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And like I said, it's a 22-minute show that is it's like morning coach talk.
It's a great
what's
show.
happening. You've been a guest.
Yes.
People stop by all the time, and it's a pick-me-up. It's
Yep.
a way for you to learn. But it's the power of social media. Like, wherever I go, people go, oh, I love the show today, but I don't know that they're watching. I can't physically
Right.
see them. We get about 40 people live every morning, which is still
it's
pretty radical,
great.
you know. But it's a commitment. You know, when we look back, it's 1,000 shows. It's like, wow, man, you just never know where something will
Right.
go. And so I guess my final thought to you is that whatever you do it with discipline and consistency, and the results take care of themselves.
Well, that's a great place to wrap this up, Steve. Thank you so much, my brother. I really
You're the best,
appreciate
man.
it.
This is going to
so
be a
great.
very well-known show, and I'm super proud to be first.
There you go. Thanks, bro.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you.